Yeah, Lance, you talked earlier in camp about the position battles at the left guard and right tackle. Just wondering what you've seen from those two positions.
You know, probably don't have the clarity yet that we'll want. We'll probably make more decisions on that towards game week. It's still a good battle between guys. Gorska and Enrique Cruz are taking the majority of the reps at right tackle. Jack Tanner will take a few. He's working mainly at left tackle behind Calvin right now. Tabaka and James Livingston and Amir Herring's probably one that's really put himself into the mix into that group as well as taking a little bit of time at center. And Amir's had a good camp, so we'll see. We're just, again, a lot of things right now for us is we just got to become more consistent, and the same thing with the people that are competing for those jobs. We got to be consistent through practice. We need to be consistent, stacking days together, and not quite there yet to make that decision.
Did you think the competition for those spots would last this long in the fall camp?
Yeah, I did. I think you guys have been here for a while now, know me. We're not going to rush into that, and I'll give you vanilla answers probably all the way up until we give you a depth chart of sorts. So it is, and again, it's by splitting those reps and doing some things, it stimulates the competition that we're looking for each and every day, and it'll give us a chance to rotate if need to and have the depth that we need through a long physical season.
Kobe and Calvin went to the O-Line Masterminds event this summer. What did the thought process look like to have them go? It's some of these, I don't even know how they come about. These are new things in this new era of stuff, and they told me about it and the dates, and we worked it around their workout schedules. And again, we want the best for our players and their personal and future development, and it's a chance to go and do that. It's kind of like Jalen going a little bit with the Manning Academy. It gets you around other people, you get to see other things, you get to be exposed to certain things. It's sometimes with coaches and players, after a while, it can be much like you with your parents. Your parents tell you stuff all the time, and you kind of listen, but when someone else from the outside tells you the same thing, it resonates a little bit more. And sometimes when it's reinforced through another source, it helps. But they both said it was very good. They got a lot out of it. It helped them, and again, anything that helps in growth and development without taking away from what their responsibilities and obligations here are, we can balance it. We'll do. Sure. Were there any specifics they talked about that Lane Johnson or Joe Thomas or
No,
something?
they didn't per se, and they just talked a lot about that it was a good experience. I didn't get into the weeds a whole lot with it as we were going. Probably should down the road for future guys and what's the good mix. But hopefully it's something that when you have guys like that have had careers, you say Joe Thomas, I just think about how old I am because I was working at Nebraska when he was came out on a visit to Nebraska, so that just shows how old I am now. So you guys are retired from the NFL.
Lance, I don't want you to, I would take it, but you don't have to name names. I'm not asking that necessarily, but philosophically, when you go into a season or a camp or anything like that, do you analyze the potential for breakout players? Do you have a number or a hope, or is there data that shows normally this is kind of a good sign because we have X number of breakout guys, or is that not a thing?
I don't know if I've looked at numbers and things. When we look at more numbers for us, it's more consistent volume and stuff like that. Sleeve will give me a lot of that type of data, but all in all, somebody will always have a chance to flash something in the spring, or something's coming through summer development that kind of gets your eye on it, and you're seeing it, and you're like, yeah, this guy's got a chance to do something and really help us beyond maybe what we thought, or have a bigger role or things like that. So you don't know who that is yet, and but I'm excited about a few of the guys that could do that for us.
Is that a must-have for programs? I mean, just to have guys that kind of surprise every year or come out of nowhere, or whatever you want to phrase it?
Yeah, I think so. I think
you know, where we're still at as a program, you know, where the roster is and where you want competition, and somebody's going to come along faster than you thought, that you need somebody to emerge at different times. I think we'll get that, and we'll continue to need it, but yeah.
How's Cole Ballard looked kind of in his third fall camp, and as he kind of continues to develop it?
You know, I'm real pleased with Cole. Again, we've talked about Cole now for a while, about his maturity, his moxie, his respect in the locker room, and you continue to see the growth of things that he's done. I think one that's really stood out to me a little bit too in leadership is he's not afraid to get on someone. And when guys aren't getting lined up right, or they're not getting in and out of the huddle, you know, he's not afraid to jump a guy, and you need that. And I think he has a way about it that still is, you know, the guys are going to respect him and understands why he's doing it. He's doing a great job mixing up snap counts and voice inflection, and you see that when quarterbacks can take that to the next level, those are hidden yards in a game.
When he arrived as a third string walk-on, did you expect any of the things that he's done?
If it was something I said yes, you would say, well, then you think you got like future vision or something. But as I've said before, knowing his father and the makeup of his father and the competitive nature of his father and the intangibles and the story that went behind, you know, like other guys, you know, sometimes we hear about guys that think they're basketball players, and then all of a sudden they figure out there's a lot of 6'4" basketball players that have to, you know, then all of a sudden I can be a tight end or a defensive end. Cole was a guy that was playing baseball and was throwing about 90, but then decided to kind of go about a different way. So I knew there'd be an upside. I knew there'd be a part of the other intangibles of being around the game, understanding the game, what it takes. So surprised, no. Pleased on where it's trending, absolutely.
Looking at the linebackers and the defensive backfield, just how have you seen the back end of the defense kind of come together over the course of camp?
Yeah, it's been a process, still a process of consistency, and that's for multiple reasons. You know, Michael, it's one is installation, putting a lot on them, and we do a lot offensively, from formations, personnels, motions, and shifts, all the different things. And what it's really forced, and DK's done a great job, and the other defensive coaches, is I think we're a better communicating vocal team, but we still have to be better to make sure we're all on the same page. So that's part of the process as well. It's competitive. We got a lot of safeties that have kind of played or been around for a while. The corner spot's a little differently, but keeping guys healthy and consistent out there has also been a challenge, as well as some of the linebackers. I like the makeup of the linebacker room. I love, we think there's more length, there's more athleticism than probably we've had as a whole. So it's going to make it should help us defensively, it should help us in special teams and throughout the year.
And specifically on the safety front, Mason Ellis, what have you seen from him?
This is, probably the most consistent he's played. It's the healthiest he's been, and playing a lot at the nickel spot. He's a versatile athlete. He's definitely a lot more confident than he's ever been, and he's a talented young man that it's been a frustrating road for him so far, and another guy that we've talked about, much like Jalen or Daniel Highshaw or something. It's one of those guys you're really pulling for to stay healthy and see the work and patience and pay off for him.
At this point in fall camp, are there any specific places in this team where you think you're ahead of schedule?
I don't know if we're ahead of schedule yet on anything where I want us to be. It's not by lack of effort or trying, but we still have to continue to work and get better. That's part of the nature of what our responsibilities are. Never be too satisfied and continue to work through situations and understanding. But in the same hand, I can't say we're drastically behind in areas either right now.
I know you had mentioned Austin Alexander a few weeks ago. I'm just wondering how his fall camp's been from your perspective.
When we get our GPS tracking and that, he's a guy that always has, his numbers are all real high. He does a lot out there. We're asking a lot of him. Again, he's, sometimes we tell Austin, I don't know if he fully understands how good he can be someday, because he's got a great skill set. He blocked a field goal in our live scrimmage the other day. He's done a lot of good things. Very pleased with him. Again, I think the thing we talk with Austin is, it's much like when we talked with Kobe and Melo in their early days. The importance of nutrition, strength, taking care of your body, to understand what maybe 12 plus games in the Big 12 at this level will do. But again, he continues to do things and has some very natural skills.
Last year about this time, there were a few true freshmen who had kind of popped that you thought might be able to play a role, Jalen Todd being among them. Mm-hmm. Is there anybody out of that group of true freshmen that you think has maybe put themselves in position to have a role this year?
Probably a little early on that yet. I'm trying to go through my Rolodex of guys right now. I can't see anybody right now that's definitely in that group, but there could be some that will get some time on special teams or and maybe inch their way into some rotational stuff. But on the same hand, very pleased with some of the younger players and where they've come. I think our early enrollees have really taken a step, and I told them at the end of spring when we had our end of the year meetings, I'll tell if it was worthwhile that you came in early after the first couple weeks of training camp. And, to see the receivers that play a little faster than they did, they're not, and more freely than they did in the spring and things like that. Adrian Holly, Malachi Krube are guys that you definitely see a difference in, guys that are going to help this football team down the road.
And there's been a lot of talk about finishing through the whole offseason. Coach Sleeve talked about the different drills that players were doing. What was that offseason process like for the coaches, and were there any talks about adjusting anything from a coaching standpoint having to do with finishing out games as well?
Again, it's not like we never did that. The kind of thing is that, and I think we said this in this room last year a lot. If there was one thing, it could have, even if you go to turnovers, was it an interception or was it a fumble? Was it a penalty? Was it, it was a vast things, but situational football, 2-minute situations, 4-minute situations, understanding those, being smarter, talking the game, doing those things. We continue to make an emphasis in practice as well as walk through situations. And hopefully, we're understanding and absorbing time, and I think I said this morning on a radio interview was, you go through these things, and we've said it here also, is what are those 3 to 5 plays? Something in those last 2 minutes or something might have been glaring what we thought cost us the game, but there was probably something in a quarter earlier, so that if we would have executed differently, it might even put the game in a different perspective as well. And we've got to make sure we have details to all those things, if that makes sense. So.
Lance, Matt asked you about potential breakout players. Leroy's obviously someone who's developed a lot.
Who's that?
Leroy Harris has developed a lot so quickly. Just how much do you think that's come from, just the added resources?
Yeah, Leroy's one of those guys, I say this, and I kind of say it, hedgingly, because coaching lower level football for most of my career, but Leroy Harris is one of those guys why you understand why players at the FCS level, potentially Group of 5 or Division II, take a flyer on playing Power 4 football, because here's a guy who's come in, he's put on 20 pounds in under 3 months. And I asked what he just talks about resources. And when you look at it, the resources that he has academically, the resources you have nutritionally, in the weight room, film resources, walkthrough rooms, all these different things, you understand it makes a difference. And he has taken advantage of all those things and is really kind of, as a guy that we thought that when we signed him, it was like, okay, here's this guy who's got a lot of potential. He'll be a good developmental player for us, and a guy that could help us a year from now or something like that. And he's going to be on the field.
he'll be on the field. So it's exciting.
That scrimmage the other night, anybody make big play, any group stand out?
Again, I like the way we're flying around on defense. I think, those were some that stood out to me. I think some of the, I like our defensive end position, and I think we're playing with good tenacity. I think our strain level's better to the ball. We still got to work on pad level across the board. Keaton Quebeca, I thought we, made some nice plays. Doug Emilian's made plays. I know we talk a lot about the transfers at the receiver spot, but those two guys are more than holding their own in this thing about being on the field. So we didn't have Daniel or LeSean get in a live situation, but Johnny Thompson's a back that continues to show improvement, and a guy who's been on kind of bubble to get an opportunity here. He's taken the most of it. Harry Stewart's been working his way back in, but Johnny's probably one of the more improved football players on our team. I think Jalen is playing well. I'm really pleased with his camp and what he's doing, and just need him to stay locked in this manner and keep leading our football team.
On the tight end group, a lot of bodies in there. What do you see from them?
Deshaun Haneke's been slowed a little bit. He didn't practice today. As I keep thinking, who am I forgetting in this? You'd led me to the probably right guys at, Carson Bruin has probably been one of the bigger surprises at camp as a redshirt freshman. He's going to play a lot. Leighton Cure, again, I talk about some of our GPS stuff, his numbers. The kid works his tail off and plays hard all the time and does a lot of good things and will have a role in this offense. Bourbon Gone is a guy that transfer from Rice has done a really good job of picking up our offense. Very smart football player. Actually showing some flashes in the scrimmage the other night. So I like the way the tight end group is going to be. Jaden Ham's been out for a while, and he just came back into full practice today. So again, there's 5-6 guys that have a chance to help us at that tight end spot.
You've obviously been in the stadium a lot over the course of its construction, but what's it been like getting to practice and get to do real football inside?
It's been great, and honestly, I wasn't in there probably as much as you think. I really kind of stayed away from it, and not to get stressed out if it was going to be finished on time or what it was going to be, and you control what you can, but to be in there and to get a feel for it, and it's been great. Some of our coaches want to just practice in there every day, but right now we don't have that luxury yet as things are still being worked on. Looking forward to getting in there in about a week where we can get the scoreboard on, get the play clocks on, get used to some other things. We got a few other dry run things that we want to do, but it's really nice. And the more that you start to see things, it was done in a first-class way.